Our third presentation is titled Igniting the Entrepreneurial Spirit in Europe and will be presented by Mr. Martin Luxembourg, the co-founder and manager of Erasmus Center for Entrepreneurship. He is also the co-founder of Get in the Ring, like tournament competition of startups. Please welcome Mr. Luxembourg to the stage.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to thank STEPI for having me here, and I'm really grateful for your hospitality and being able to share a little bit about our experience in Europe and especially in the Netherlands about our ecosystem. First of all, quickly about the Netherlands. Speaking to some Koreans today, but also through my colleagues, there's a lot of comparison between the Netherlands and Korea in terms of size of the country, government policies, government regulations, but also the fact that there are multinationals here and there are startups. So in that sense, I think it's good that we can share these these experiences that we had in the Netherlands and see how we can learn from each other. Just some facts. Pretty small in size, 135th in the world. Also on the slide of Professor Zhu, we saw that we were number 5, number 6 in terms of innovation. And then going forward, export, of course, we are the gateway to Europe, as we call it, with our harbor and yeah, the airfield. But do you think it's on number 1? Does anybody know? Sorry? Heights, yes, we are the tallest, one of the tallest people in the world. Some other things? Soccer, yeah, we're good, yeah. Oh, there's also one other thing that was like the same, right? We had the same the same soccer team manager. Flowers, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we also have the most expensive royal family in the world. So it's a real, yeah, that's a subject that, but okay. Quickly about myself. Yeah, I'm Dutch, of course. This is my family. My mother took the picture. That's why she's not on it. And I have a passion for entrepreneurship. I've been working in the field since just before my studies, and during my studies and after my studies. And I've actually seen both sides of the coin. So on one hand, I started 2 companies. And with one of them, we also invest in startups. We're part of an investors club. But on the other hand, we also run 2 major programs on stimulating entrepreneurship between universities, within the ecosystem, which was called the Holland Program on Entrepreneurship, which was a $5 million or €5 million project and the valorization program. And the last thing that we did is, what I would also talk about a little bit today, is about we founded the Erasmus Center for Entrepreneurship, which is a university center for entrepreneurship, an expertise center. But we not only focus on research, we have the largest research group in Europe, if you look at research output solely on entrepreneurship, but also in terms of commercializing our knowledge that we have towards multinationals in terms of how to be more entrepreneurial and how to connect with startups. And besides, we also have a co-working space and accelerator programs. So in that sense, we have the total package. And the last thing I'll also explain a little bit in the presentation is I founded, together with 3 co-founders, Get in the Ring, which is a worldwide startup competition. It's hosted in 64 countries, almost 2,000 startups last year participated, which we would like, and it was also hosted in Korea actually last year. That was also one of the points that's why I was invited here. So going forward, okay, of course, entrepreneurship is important because it can solve global challenges. We see it as a combination between science and entrepreneurship. Well, looking at Europe, especially the Netherlands, is that this is called a phenomenon is called the European knowledge paradox, which means that we have really strong academic centers, we have a lot of knowledge, build up know-how, and we have, let's say, for the Netherlands, 12 universities in the top 200. In total of the country, we have 16. It's 200, the best 200 universities in the world. So in that sense, you would mean like, okay, guys, you should be the ones being really innovative and really having growing companies. But we lack the fact that we cannot commercialize, and we call it valorization, the knowledge to society and to business. And that's something that the US, as an example, is really good at. And that's the second part. So this is called the European paradox. So this is something to start with in your mind also going forward. Looking at entrepreneurship, well, of course, a lot of things already said today. But if you look at the picture on the right, it was done by the Kaufman Foundation. Research is that startups are more and more creating net jobs. So in that sense, we need startups. But the thing is, it's also below, we need ambitious entrepreneurs, because if we only have new entrepreneurs that don't grow their company, that don't have people that they can hire, it's still something that we cannot grow. What's also funny is that also what Professor Zhu explained is that we see that a lot of R&D investments are done, right? You saw the rise in China and also in Korea. But if you look at the success of innovation, it's only 25% which is through R&D. 75% is because of the entrepreneurs, the people behind it. And that's also what Mukesh explained, is that we need people that can fail, that can grow. So keep that also in mind when going forward. So this is what we did since the 1970s in the Netherlands. First of all, there was no programs for SMEs or startups. We only focused on multinationals. Easy as that. In the 80s, we saw, okay, SMEs are important. So we said big is beautiful, or big is powerful, small is beautiful, and together they should. But then again, it was only focused on existing SMEs. Then in the 90s, what we saw is then it was focused on creating new companies, new startups. So in that sense, we also saw, that will also be in my pictures, in my graphs a little bit later. Again, it's about starting a company, not so much on creating entrepreneurs who can start 1 to 10 companies or add value to companies that are already there. So that's something that we did in starting from 2000, focusing on entrepreneurs. So a lot of money was invested in entrepreneurship education. Well, for myself, I also run of these programs for Erasmus University, TU Delft, and Leiden University. Those are actually the 3 major universities within South Holland. Just to see what happened. What happened after doing this? What we saw is that in 2001 we had 5% of people or companies that are entrepreneurs, and then it became, after all these policies, it became 8%. So in that sense, as you can see on the graph, you see that we are doing pretty good in Europe in terms of the amount of entrepreneurs that we have. There's also, of course, a multiplier effect. So if I stimulate someone to do it, then he will tell his friends, and then it will become more into the culture, and more people will start. But the problem is, it's not per se good that we have more entrepreneurs. That's also what I just explained, because we score less on one point. That's ambition, and that's something that's really important, because that will make, again, startups grow. Here we see also that most startups in the Netherlands, they stay below 5 people, and they score low on innovation. And that's something, this is also within Europe. If you look at students, it's also one of the stimulation programs, is that we see that the amount of student entrepreneurs is growing, but if you look at the ambition and the career choices after their studies, it's going down. People want to start a business after 10 years or 5 years. And yeah, is that a good thing? I don't know, having more experience. But on the other hand, we also heard the stories about failing fast and doing a lot of things, a lot of pivoting. So this is a little bit the situation in the Netherlands, and I think also in Europe compared to the other countries. And maybe this is also similar here in Korea. So I would love to also talk about this during or after the presentation, just to get it more in depth. Okay, so this is where we are right now. So we want to focus more on ambitious entrepreneurship, and this is also really interesting, is that we try to have a less involvement of the government and a bigger role for the current organizations that are already in the country, because I will touch upon that a little bit later. putting this a little bit into a European perspective, the European Union also created a lot of programs to stimulate entrepreneurship and the exchange of SMEs between the countries. And that's interesting because you probably think that Europe is one thing, but it's really countries that are so divided, and working together is really hard. But I think with this government program, this is around, I think it's around 200 billion, which is put into these kinds of stimulation programs for the entire Europe. So it's a lot of money going in. So a lot of collaboration between countries with the focus of learning of each other. And that's also something that we're trying to do here today, is that we try to learn from each other. So that meaning putting down best practices on paper, sharing it, trying to exchange people. And the other thing is, which is also good, I think, is that we, within the European Union, we try to focus on exchanging SMEs. And that's also something which comes back to, let's say, ambitious entrepreneurship, because we want an SME not to only focus within their country, we want them to focus that the market is Europe and maybe even, well, maybe, I think it should be global. So in that sense, I think that also in terms of policies, we're going the right direction. And if you look at the European policies, it's lacking a little bit behind as far as we are within the Netherlands. But of course, there are some countries that are more further in stimulating entrepreneurship than others. But the thing is that because we are together, we also have the possibility to create a level playing field in the future. Okay, so going back, what we should do now, a less role of the government, because what happened is that the government stimulated all types of innovation programs around universities, incubators, accelerators. But what they did, they gave everyone a little bit of money. But then what happened is that everybody was saying, look, we're the best at, I don't know, sectors, or maybe even just the best in general. But in such a small country, with such limited amount of startups, I don't think that's a good idea, because we're not working together. And we are now at the stage that the government says, okay, our role is, we're pulling back a little bit. We want you guys to do it yourself, because you guys are now well organized, you have good organizations, you know, you have experience. So we created, it's not really clear, maybe it's clearer in the picture on the handouts, created 10 innovation hubs in the Netherlands, with the goal to work together more, so we can have, and then I go back with the slide, create Europe's largest startup ecosystem. And if you look at all the ingredients that we have already in the Netherlands, within such a small area, we have everything to be this ecosystem. And of course, this is one thing, and with this, let's say, we call it Startup Delta, because in the Netherlands it's below the sea level, so it's called a Delta. Of course, with this collaboration, we can also better collaborate with the rest of the world. So one of the things that we did last year is the Cambridge Innovation Center, which is affiliated with MIT and Harvard in Boston. They are the largest, what they say, the largest incubator in the world. They want to have one of their subsidiaries in Europe. Well, they chose for Rotterdam, the Netherlands, because they say, okay, Netherlands is a great country to test things, they're really open, they have good collaborations. So in that sense, you see already that by working together as a country, we can get in larger organizations to work with. So that's a little bit the ambition where we are right now, to focus on. And one of the things is, and this is also what I see when talking in different countries, is that it's sometimes hard to say why is a certain country the best in a certain thing. And in that sense, we see that we looked at our unfair advantages, right? That these are things that no other country can have because we are just good at it. And that's what also explained the gateway to Europe. We have leading multinationals here that can be a launching customer, that can create a way to sell products all over the world. The other thing is that's also shown, we have all these clusters, these tech clusters combined. Within 90 minutes you can drive around all these universities. It's crazy, and you probably think, why are you guys not working together already for 20 years? Yeah, that's something maybe typically European, typically Dutch. Like, okay, we are good at this, and then we show it to the world. No, we have to work together. So also in that terms, if we now bring in a US or Chinese company, we say, look, this is what we can offer within 90 minutes. And it's like we have one of the best research in terms of life science or medical or clean tech or, well. And the rest of the thing is, the third thing is that the Netherlands is often a testing ground for the rest of Europe and maybe the rest of the world, because we are pretty open culture, we have good English, so in that sense, if it works in the Netherlands, it will probably work in the rest of Europe. Again, I will briefly go through these slides because what do we need, or what are we going to do to create these ambitious entrepreneurs or startups? And going back, so we are pretty competitive. 8th place. We have people in the Netherlands see entrepreneurship as a good career choice. So it's another plus. We see that if we look at the early stage entrepreneurial activity, the policies that we put in, a lot of people, it works. So we have, and also here the fear of failure. In Europe, we are okay. In terms of America and maybe other countries, we are not so good, but still within Europe, it's decent. We're pretty good at knowledge, and our labor productivity is pretty high. So you would say, like, we have all the ingredients to work in this. So what we want to do is we want to link all these innovation clusters in the entire country. We want to change the system not only by the accelerators or incubators working together, but everyone. So the government, the corporates, educational system, everyone should work together to create that impact to have startups scale up. Because again, that's the buzzword for today. So again, I will briefly go through this one. We don't go everything, but network, capital, talent. These are the three things that we are trying to focus on. And what we saw is that if you look at, let's say, talent/network, we have a startup visa now in the Netherlands. So startups from all over Europe can get a visa and can come to the Netherlands and can work there for, I don't know, I think it's 9 months or something, where normally they would have to have a work permit, etc. So this is something that we are working on, so we can have also, that's also what we want, we don't want only our own startups, we also want startups from all over the world coming to the Netherlands, because we have all these good things, these great things. Other thing is, if you look at capital, for example, in the Netherlands, Europe, the US and the world, there's enough capital. There's maybe too much capital. But the problem is that there's not enough talent to give the capital to. And that's maybe something that, as Silicon Valley, let's say, as a case we can learn from, is that because there is capital, it attracts capital, or talent, sorry, it attracts capital and it attracts network. But we think that we should start, I should put the pyramid the other way around, but you should start as a foundation, focus on talent, the creation of talent. And that's something that happens within educational systems. And then the rest will come, because they see the talent. So also one of the things, we tried to put a coding program in the curriculum of all primary schools. So in that sense, there are a lot of things that we can now do together. Well, I have 5 minutes left, so I'll quickly go through this one. That's the other thing I explained. We want startups, not only in the Netherlands, but all over the world, to have a worldwide view. We want them to go out. We got to think that their market is everywhere. That's why we created Get in the Ring. It's a global investment competition that inspires and spreads entrepreneurial spirit across the world. And again, it should also be a fun event. It should also be fun for startups to do things, show themselves, put them on a podium. So I have a small video which explains the concept.
In the multiverse of high potential startups and intrepid investors, an evil paradox has been in play.
Can you put it louder a little bit?
It's as if they existed in two completely different worlds. The world of smart money, where investors were starving for great new concepts and entrepreneurs, and a world where extraordinary startups were dying from a lack of funding, knowledge, and network. But what if we could make these worlds collide? That's where Get in the Ring, the Olympics for Startups, comes into play. It gives startups a global podium, putting them in the spotlight where they square off in an attempt to secure an investment from champion investors, plus build a fan base. Jumpstarting a startup is no longer about friends, families, and fools. Get in the Ring introduces the fourth F, the F of fans. Fans who can invest their expertise, network, and time. Are you ready for this epic entrepreneurial battle? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Get in the Ring, the latest evolution of this startup revolution, grown from a local event to a global brand. Let's get in the ring.
So with Get in the Ring, it's a product that was made in the Netherlands, in Europe, which we try to also let's say export to the rest of the world. For example, shows the impact a little bit is that Get in the Ring US is organized by the Kaufman Foundation. So they think, okay, this is a great concept because we can bring all these startups together and give them a worldwide podium. It's 12, we do it in 12 regions, so again 64 countries. They do national finals. Of those, winners go to regions, and of those 12 regions, the winner will go to an international final, which will be held for this year, or actually in 2016, in Colombia during the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. Okay, I think I want to leave it here. A lot to tell, also to explain in 25 minutes the entire ecosystem in Europe. Even in the Netherlands it would be hard. So again, I would love to invite you, because I am here to discuss further about things that maybe we can work together on, or things that we can learn from each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luxembourg. 지금 심플로우를 통해서 질문들이 많이 올라오고 있는데요. 저희가 시간이 좀 지연된 관계로 저희가 패널 토론이나 네트워킹 진행 때 좀 더 다루도록 하겠습니다. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. 질문 읽도록 하겠습니다. 스타트업의 올림픽인 Get in the Ring에 참여하는 다양한 국적의 스타트업들 간의 창업 문화 및 인식의 차이가 있다면 무엇이 있을까요? 네, 간단하게 답변 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yeah, I think that, do I need to repeat the question, or?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
Yeah, just as
yeah, I think there are a lot of differences between the countries, and I was at the national final in the US, and if you look at how they train to pitch, to put a perfect pitch there, in other countries it's different. They focus more on explaining, let's say, a more personal story. So in that sense, we don't want to look at, for example, that all cultures or all entrepreneurial systems are not the same all over the world, and that's okay. We want startups to be there and tell their story, and that's also why Get in the Ring is a certain way of pitching, where everybody pitches in the same format, but has the ability to tell their personal story. And of course, some, like the winner of last year was a company from Indonesia who had a new system for fishery. Well, in Asian countries, but it was a really, let's say, low-tech invention. But the thing is, the impact is huge, because it can make people in Asia in fishery have 3, 4, 5 times more fish, catch more fish. So if you see that the global impact is much bigger than, for example, there is more innovative types of companies that pitch. So in that sense, again, it's not solely about the difference between the companies, but it's more about the impact that they can make in the world. And if it's here, Asia, it doesn't matter. It has to be something that's global. So, yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Please give him a big applause. Thank you.